Neil Diamond, you think of great music, talent, what an amazing artist that is. But then you cannot believe what I'm going to tell you. You know what I think about? Well, first of all, we're both Brooklyn born, right? And what does Brooklyn mean? It's, conditions, and walking around the avenue, picking up the girls, and egg cream. Oh, we say, what is an egg cream? A lot of you don't know. It's a great chocolate drink with effervescence. You pour the Good Health Seltzer in a glass. You mix it with some milk. Very deftly, very carefully pour in Fox's You-Bet. It has to be Fox's You-Bet. Otherwise, it is not a real egg cream. It's counterfeit. It's, as we say, Ersatz, right? That's the German word for forget about it. And you mix it very carefully so the milk would stay on the top and have a foam. That's an egg cream. I taught my friend Neil Diamond how to do this, and I gave him 2 cases of Fox's You-Bet. I couldn't have given him anything, even like a gold record. You should have seen Neil Diamond's face when I gave him the presentation, the medal of 2 boxes, 2 cartons of Fox's You-Bet. Yep, and the Brooklyn Roads boy, Brooklyn boy, 2 of them, Neil and Cousin Bruce. Neil Diamond, I love you. Here's to you with my egg cream.
Keep listening for another page from Cousin Brucey's scrapbook. And now, it's time for Joe Piscopo's Sinatra Stories on Music Radio 77 WABC.
I love getting the different arrangers that Mr. Sinatra worked with on the air, because there is Nelson Riddle, there is Billy May, there is Gordon Jenkins, there is the great Don Costa, there is Quincy Jones, the music of Count Basie. But there was a song that Nelson Riddle arranged. It was the Beatles song. George Harrison wrote Something. Mr. Sinatra loved the song Something, and he had Nelson Riddle do a beautiful arrangement. You stick around, Jack, it may show. We use the word Jack. I remember I did that on Saturday Night Live. I found another brand new arrangement of the Beatles song, the George Harrison song, Something. You gotta listen to the new arrangement of Something. It's a wild arrangement of the George Harrison classic.
Keep listening for more Sinatra Stories. And now, 77 WABC presents a Music Radio Minute.
Cousins, it's May 1969. Here's a look at the top 3 of music radio. At number 3, the Beatles hit with Get Back. The Beatles with Billy Preston. Get back to where you once belonged. At number 2, cousins, the Cowsills. They stayed on the charts for 10 solid weeks with Hair. By the way, they came from Broadway. And the number 1 record at the top of our charts here on WABC, Aquarius, the Fifth Dimension, cousins, flying high.
Coming soon.
So keep listening, cousins.
This is New York's talk leader, the crown jewel of talk radio. WABC New York, WRCR Haverstraw, and 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays. News first at 59 past the hour. 77 WABC News starts now.
77 WABC News, first to 59 past the hour. I'm Lisa G. Authorities say no one has been arrested and no one remains in custody following an operation in Tucson, Arizona, conducted Friday in connection with the Nancy Guthrie case. It was being reported that at least 3 people have been detained near Guthrie's home. In other news, you take New Jersey Transit. We'll get ready for some headaches, no laden reports.
It could be 4 weeks from hell for New Jersey Transit riders as Amtrak transfers rail service from a 100-year-old bridge to a new one over the Hackensack River. To get it online, New Jersey Transit needs to cut the number of trains in and out of the city beginning in earnest on on Monday.
Please fix this bridge so we can get back and forth to work, be on time.
New Jersey Transit asking riders for patience while it reduces service from 48 to 18 trains per hour for the next month. Tickets will be cross-honored on buses, the PATH trains, and ferries. Noah Layden, WABC News.
And it's full steam ahead for the Gateway Tunnel project. Lisa Ritchie reports.
The tunnel would connect New Jersey and New York. New Jersey Governor Mikey Sherrill says the federal government has released the funding for the Gateway Rail Tunnel project.
We anticipate that what this court decision says is funds need to continue flowing. So we should continue to keep workers on the job until it's finished.
Sherrill bashed President Trump for halting the project, putting 1,000 workers temporarily out of a job. The Transportation Department stopped supporting the $16 billion tunnel project as part of a review of compliance and federal regulations. I'm Lisa Ritchie, 77 WABC News.
Paul Canero was found guilty on Friday of killing his brother and his brother's entire family inside their home in Colts Neck, New Jersey in 2018. It was one of the biggest murder cases in New Jersey in years. President Trump is rolling back greenhouse gas regulations that he says has made cars more expensive in the U.S. Trump said the crippling Obama-era restrictions on the U.S. auto industry have led to inferior vehicles that cost more.
This action will eliminate over $1.3 trillion of regulatory costs and help bring car prices tumbling down dramatically.
In other news, a man is accused of killing his estranged wife on Long Island.
Cops say they responded to a domestic dispute at a home in Farmingville where they found 46-year-old Adriana Barbosa. She was taken to the hospital where she was pronounced dead. It's alleged 57-year-old Marcos Marquez Leal stabbed Barbosa before attempting to take his own life. A teenage relative was in the home at the time, did suffer minor injuries during the whole thing. Marquez Leal charged with murder, criminal contempt, and endangering the welfare of a child. James Flippin, 477 WABC News.
And with romance in the air this weekend, experts are warning about potential romance scams. Tammy Trujillo has the details.
The scammers lead the victims into fake romantic relationships online and then convince them to invest money into fraudulent accounts. The Federal Trade Commission reported more than $12 billion in scam-related losses in 2024. Before investing money in anything, you should always make sure to do your research and make sure everything is legitimate.
President Trump says voter ID requirements will be in place for the midterm elections, whether approved by Congress or not. We have the story from Jim Roop.
The president made the comment in a Truth Social post in which he also calls for no more mail-in voting, with some exceptions. In another post, Trump insists Democrats cannot get away with no voter ID any longer, and he went on saying an executive order will be coming if Congress doesn't act. Earlier this week, the House passed voter identification legislation, the Save America Act, but the bill lacks the 60 votes required to pass in the Senate. I'm Jim Roop.
How about a nearly $1 million restroom in California?
The facility with 2 stalls and 2 drinking fountains is near the popular Runyon Canyon hiking trail. The project has been criticized since it was announced last summer, largely because of its cost. Runyon Canyon Guardians, a local advocacy group, says it received an estimate for a similar restroom at half the price. Portable toilets were already available in the area. LA City Councilwoman Nithya Robbins says the restroom is funded through a grant and is meant to improve park infrastructure. I'm Daniel Martindale.
From the 77 WABC Weather Center for the evening and overnight, clear skies, low 30 degrees. Sunday's outlook partly sunny, high 39. Sunday evening, cloudy with a slight chance of snow, low down to 33 degrees. Monday, President's Day, many of you have the day off. Cloudy skies, high 41. And then Tuesday, partly sunny, high 46. I'm Lisa G. Remember, the news never stops at WABCRadio.com.
Always look to the sky. The Dr. Sky Experience is on the air. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
From the powerhouse blowtorch, ladies and gentlemen, warming up the airwaves. You're listening, of course, to 77 WABC. Broadcasting from the center of the universe, New York City, around the nation and around the world, and I'm sure, well out into the cosmos. Welcome to another edition of the Dr. Sky Experience as we continue to explore the many realms of astronomy, space, aviation, weather, celebrity guests, and American exceptionalism. And as always with our 2-hour show, You, of course, the listeners and callers, they rule here on this show. And the contact number to get involved with the conversation, we love dialogue with critical thinking, is 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-9222. Hoping that your Valentine's Day is full of love, or was, depending on what time zone you're listening to us. And on the calendar, just a quick check, Monday, President's Day, and how about that on Tuesday, the 17th of February, Chinese New Year. To our Chinese friends around the nation and the world, celebrating year 4724, the year of the fire horse. With all these great topics, today we move in, and this morning into another of our critical thinking and obviously shows that we call Theater of the Mind. Hour number one, we'll be discussing with a very special guest, Jay Bieber, the Executive Director of Policy for the National Motorist Association, talking about what in many people's minds is known as the red light camera ripoff. Yes, continuing on the story of surveillance like we had in a previous show some 24 hours ago with guest Patrick Wood talking about technocracy and transhumanism. Many people believe, and certainly your host does too, that we're losing many of our rights as we sit here, not only listening to this particular program, but all around the world every single day. If you never knew what rights you had, how do you know what rights you lost? And in just a moment, we'll continue on that particular subject because it is near and dear to so many people. Right in the New York City metro area, the increase that's only probably forecast to have more red light and surveillance cameras as you drive. And other places around the nation and around the world, many people are seeing this as a major problem. And the backstory goes like this. Motorists are one of the largest special interest groups in the world. The number of licensed drivers in the United States and Canada are well over 250 million individuals, dwarfs the population of most countries. Drivers' rights don't just occur naturally. To protect the driving public from excessive tolls, fees, and fines, and ensure that motorists retain the due process rights afforded all citizens, it takes an organization dedicated to the task. That organization is, and has been for the past 38 years, the National Motorists Association. And with that, let's welcome in our hour number one, let's welcome our special guest, Jay Bieber, Executive Director of Policy for the National Motorists Association. Jay, thank you for being here on the Dr. Sky Experience. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be with you and your audience tonight.
Well, thank you so much. And I mean, many people may be scratching their heads saying, well, wait a minute, we talk about space and UFO subject matters and all things going in the quantum realm. But moving back to what we had as a guest last night, Patrick Wood, he talks very eloquently, like you do, about the very subject, about surveillance and how it's affecting people all over the world. So I thought it appropriate, as you and I talked offline, to set this interview up. The problem is rampant, and I'd like you to describe the organization, your role in it, and then, ladies and gentlemen, if you have questions, are you a victim of some of this, as many people describe, in their opinion, the red light camera ripoff? I'm sure that would, light up the phone lines at 1-800-848-9222. Jay, talk about your background and your passion for being involved in this particular topic.
Well, thank you for having me on. And just to give a little bit of background on the National Motorist Association, we got started back in the 80s to fight the 55-mile-an-hour national speed limit. For those who remember that, the federal government decided to mandate throughout the entire country that no state could have a speed limit over 55 miles an hour on any roadway. That even extended to rural areas of the country where distances are very, very, very far apart, and it's taking you forever to get there at 55 miles an hour, and people probably remember the Sammy Hagar song, I Can't Drive 55. So the organization got its start there, and when we successfully won that fight, first in the 80s and then across the whole country in the 90s, the organization recognized and the members recognized that there was still a lot of work to do about our freedom to travel in the United States, freedom to go where you want to go, when you want to go, how you want to go without the government imposing unreasonable restrictions on you. And that includes some of what you mentioned, which is automated enforcement and unreasonable speed limits. And so that's what the organization does every day. We fight for the rights of the American motorists to ensure that you're treated fairly when you're out on the roadway, and that includes surveillance and automated enforcement, red light cameras, speed cameras, and whatnot.
Well, absolutely, and well said by our special guest, Jay Bieber, as we continue here on the Dr. Sky Experience. Ladies and gentlemen, your questions, your observations on this, maybe you've been a victim of this, and maybe you do not know, and our special guest, I'm sure, has many helpful hints about how you can stand up for your rights. And again, we want to support law enforcement, but the truth of the matter is, right, Jay, in many people's estimations, describe the red light camera ripoff as it's described even on your website. And I'd like, ladies and gentlemen, to go to that particular website, and I hope I have it right, as motorist.org. Is that a correct reference to your site?
That is correct, motorist.org. So, well, here's the thing. For those people who aren't familiar, maybe there's no red light cameras where they are. Of course, the listening audience in New York especially is familiar with it. Yes. New Jersey had it for a while. They're now rolling out speed cameras and red light cameras in Connecticut and all across the country. We've gotten them eliminated in some places like Los Angeles, California, and Texas, and some other places. But they keep rearing their ugly head because there's a lot of money to be made, both on the part of the vendors who run these red light camera systems and also the jurisdictions who have the programs and are raking in millions and millions of dollars. And people may question and say, well, why is that a problem if you're ticketing people that are doing something wrong? The problem is that, for the most part, the vast majority of tickets that are issued with these camera systems are in two buckets: either a fraction of a second violation that you can't even see with the naked eye, that a police officer would never ever be able to issue a ticket for, because the blink of an eye is 0.4 of a second, and the vast majority of tickets are given within the first, say, half a second of the light turning red. So most people don't even know they violated, and those are mostly inadvertent violations. I'll explain why we know that. But the other bucket. Yeah, I'm sorry. The other bucket is is people getting ticketed for slow rolling right turns. When you make a right turn, the law says you're supposed to stop completely, and then you make the right turn if it's safe to do so. And most people can see, all around them, they can see that it's safe, that they're able to make the turn. And so they're a little sloppy in their driving, and they slow down, but their wheels don't quite stop turning 100%, and the camera will register that, and then they will issue a ticket. And in California, these tickets are $500 a piece, and I think New York they're like $250 or something like that. And so for those people who think, we're ticketing all the bad people, no, we're ticketing people who are inadvertently, for the most part, violating and are committing such minor violations the police never even pull you over for, and these almost never, ever result in a collision or injury or danger to anyone else. So it's just technical violations, and that's why we're against these cameras. If it was just ticketing the outliers, they make money on these, and the cameras actually can't stop the most dangerous drivers. We can get into that if you want to discuss that.
No, and Jay, this is very interesting. In this early morning or evening, still in the West Coast and other places around the world, I'm sure so many people out there have been victim of this type of thing, or they could be. So we're setting up that, that whole warning system here with this particular hour, that people need to stand up for their rights. And if you're going 100 miles an hour in a 25 mile an hour zone, I certainly would agree, and I'm sure everybody listening would say, hey, unless there was a medical emergency, and then don't you think you go 100 miles an hour through there, these are minor instances in the most case. And how would you describe it, so I don't put words in your mouth? A cash cow for these cities, and obviously they just keep raking in the money, right? With no accountability, really. That's what we're talking about.
Absolutely. And these are just purely revenue generation programs. So that's what there are. That's what the purpose is. The legislators, anybody who votes for these things, or any jurisdiction that puts these in place, they almost invariably will say, we hope we never have to issue a ticket. We hope people change their behavior. Well, first of all, you can't change your behavior if it's an inadvertent violation. So that's number one. Number two, that's put to the lie when you find out that whenever they actually don't make money on these systems, they cancel the program almost 100% of the time. So this program in which they claim is only for safety, and they wish they never had to issue a ticket, as soon as they're not making money and as soon as they're losing revenue on the program, then like when we force them to have longer yellow light times to make sure that people have enough warning before the light turns red, then when that happens and we force those things on these programs, then they cancel the program because these cameras don't actually make us any safer.
Well, Jay, can you give our New York area, New York City area, and the boroughs any information from the new mayor? I mean, I've heard this. I don't know it all officially. Maybe you have better details. I hope you do. Isn't there going to be a large increase in these type of cameras? I mean, that's one of the things that the city is looking to do, I gather. Tell us more.
Well, look, there are people with certain political persuasions who believe that they can't get enough of your money, and so if this is a way to, if this is another way to generate revenue for all the wonderful programs they think the government should be doing, then they're more than willing to do it. And there's another portion of this, which is, I can't tell you what's in somebody's hearts and mind, but we do know from a lot of things that have been stated, maybe not with this particular mayor yet, but these people are generally hostile to people using their cars. They don't want you to use their car. You use your car. They want you to be on government-run transportation. They want you on the buses. They want you on the subway. They want you, they don't want you to get in your car and drive somewhere. And so, this is why New York has congestion pricing and all of these schemes in order to make driving as difficult and as miserable and as expensive as possible because they don't want you to do it. It's social engineering. So if you could penalize people for simply getting in their car and going somewhere, they would love that. Well, their way of doing that through the back door is by ticketing you for the most minor of violations, and that way they can ticket you basically for getting in your car because everybody listening to this program and everybody who ever drives a car drives a little bit over the speed limit every once in a while.
Sure.
Everybody has inadvertently run a red light because they've made a mistake, because they got caught in that indecision zone where that light turns yellow and you're not exactly sure whether you should stop or go. If you're gonna stop, or you're gonna get rear-ended by a truck or something behind you, or if you keep going, you're going to run the red light. There's this place in the roadway that's called the indecision zone, and if you just happen to be there when that light turns yellow, that decision is a little difficult. And sometimes, happens enough times, people are just going to make a mistake, but the mistake is a fraction of a second that never puts anybody in danger. But these cameras can pick that up, and so they can basically ticket you for all these minor violations. And I would say this is akin to the government following you around with a camera all day long. I think people have to question, do they want to live in a society in which, we're constantly surveilled and we're constantly penalized for the most minor violations?
Jay, you say it so well because that's the main theme of this particular show, as we did last night. Overt surveillance here in the United States of America and other countries like Canada, I'm sure, to our north, and other places around the world. And let's not go to China because we understand that there's probably, more cameras there surveilling the population, and who knows, maybe even Russia. But I don't think many of the people out there, what do you say, ladies and gentlemen, at 1-800-848-9222 about this whole problem, as many are describing the red light camera ripoff? I want you to take us down the path. Now let's say John, Jane Doe, they get this ticket in the mail. Start off with what's happening to them. Obviously, some will look at it and go, who, me? I didn't do anything wrong. What is this? Then, what are their options? Describe the process. And I don't know if this is universally across the United States, but just give us a generalist view of when you get it, what are your options other than capitulating and paying it? And we don't want to be lawbreakers. Go from there and describe when you receive this in the mail.
Well, this is going to be different for everywhere. So it's difficult for me, for a national show like this, to be able to give people advice as far, I can't give legal advice, but as far as just general advice. But, it's very difficult because every program, every state, even every locality is slightly different in how they handle it. In California, there's no mechanism to make you pay for these things. So you can basically ignore them. In Arizona, they have to actually show up at your door with a process server in order to serve you with the violation. They mail it to you and hope people will just pay it. But in Arizona, if you wait and see if maybe they will show up at your door with the process server, you don't have to do anything until that happens. And then, every place around the country is different. New York, I do believe that if you ignore the ticket, that they will come after you in some way, whether it's a registration hold or something of that nature. So every program is a little bit different. But that's why we exist at the National Motors Association, to help people, and especially our members. And I should just put in a shameless plug right now. Our membership is very inexpensive. It's basically the price of a tank of gas. Well, it's a half a tank if you live in California. But it's $42 a year as a member of the National Motors Association, and you have access to us and all the information we have on our website in terms of fighting these types of things and all types of traffic tickets. And again, we're not in the business of trying to help people who are the real scofflaws, the people who actually put people in danger, but the vast majority of people who get tickets are just making a minor error. So that's why, one of the things that we do help people. We have a Fight Your Ticket book on the website for members. Yes. And yeah, so it's very helpful, and again, it's $42 a year. It's basically nothing.
It's well spent. And let me say this: as we broadcast on this powerhouse radio station, as we talk, I call it a blowtorch, in a good way. It goes out everywhere. This is great information. So let's begin with the callers here. Time is limited, and we appreciate you very much, Jay. Let's say good morning to Alan in Boston. Good morning. Thanks for being with us. You're on with Jay Bieber of the National Motors Association. How are you doing up there in Boston?
Gentlemen, great show, and I can just tell you, they have mobile ticket cameras where they know an area gets heavily trafficked. They just bring that little van over there with a camera. They also have, and New York City is famous for this, they have like small bridges all over the city, and the speed limit will be so low, you couldn't power your car over that small bridge at that speed limit, and they have officers giving out tickets and everything. It's the technology that is benefiting these people. You have people who don't share our mentality anymore. They come out and they say it now. They used to hide it. They come out, they're communists. They want to take all our money. They want to confiscate it as much as possible. And here's where I get suspicious now. I really do.
Go ahead.
You guys invite the third world into America, and America becomes a third world, and you're questioning what happened. What happened? You see what happened. So I'm wondering why people are trying to camouflage this stuff. And even with the kidnapping down in Arizona, they're going to use technology, computers that are inside cars to track cars. They're going to have photos from satellites and videos. You notice they keep stopping a silver car? Of course, because they know the car color of the perpetrator.
Exactly. Well, I'll tell you right now, Jay, Alan is fired up there. Your response to him, he says a lot, and I think he's powerful, and he's got some good points. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, absolutely. Alan's absolutely right about a lot of this. Where he is in Massachusetts, for example, there's a bill right now in their legislature to have the government of Massachusetts put in a program to reduce the number of miles people drive every year. Now, how are they going to do that? They're going to have to find a way to track you. They're going to have to find a way to track the miles that you drive, and they're going to have to try to penalize you in some way if you go over what the government decides is the right amount of miles. And, of course, that number of miles is going to constantly be reduced.
No, it's incredible. I mean, the power of this radio station, getting the message out there. But your message, of course, Jay, is very, very powerful. Thanks to Alan in Boston. Let's say good morning on line 2. We go back to New Jersey. We say good morning to Sean. Sean, you're on with Jay Bieber. How you doing?
Hi, Jay. Hi, Doc. How are you? Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
I just want to mention, I agree with, I don't like the government watching over us. I'm 100% behind it. But when it comes to the red lights, I'm 59 years old. I'm not that old man. 2 kids get off my lawn, guy. But I see people running red lights all the time. Not by a split second. Blatantly. All the time. My car insurance has doubled. I have not gotten a ticket or been in a car accident in my life driving. Okay? And I have a problem with people that blatantly run red lights all the time here at the Jersey Shore.
Well, let me let Jay respond here, Sean. You bring up powerful stuff here, because you're right. I mean, if somebody's going through there, zipping through way over the speed limit, I believe, and I think Jay would agree, that's a ticketable situation. But Jay, you're the expert on this on our show. Respond back, because I think you're talking about something a little bit different with the turns and a few other things when you're going, let's say, way, way below a speed limit. So in other words, is it just yes or no in this situation? You're guilty, you're not guilty. Describe back to Sean what he's describing here.
Right, and look, and I certainly can appreciate Sean's position on this, because, but here's the thing. First of all, I'm originally from New Jersey, so and I know the shore very well. But what I would say is this: that I think that if you recognized sort of all the abuses in the system, and New Jersey had a red light camera program, and it was incredibly abusive, and they canceled it because it wasn't making the roadways any safer, and it was basically ticketing, for the most part, the average person like Sean, who every once in a while makes a mistake. We all agree, everybody agrees, that anybody blatantly running a red light, way after the light has been red, then that person deserves a ticket. But the cameras only can record it. They're not going to stop it from happening. And a lot of those fall into two buckets. Number one is possibly, and again, it would depend on the situation, is was the yellow light time long enough? And here's how we know that in many cases the yellow light time is not long enough, which is when you increase the yellow light time, the number of violations that are captured by these systems plummets by like 75, 95%. And then they don't come back. So some people say, people just adjust. They don't. So we've tracked these things over 2-3 years, and those violations don't return. So I don't think Sean would want a system which was mostly ticketing just little minor violations. What he's talking about is a system that only tickets the people who are blatantly running the red light, whether it stops them or not, penalizes them. And the problem is, if you have a system that only does that, they can't make any money off of it. There's not enough of them. And
there you go.
Yeah, and so I understand John sees that as somebody running a red light, but understand also in New Jersey and in most places that as long as you cross the limit line, which is the line either right before the crosswalk starts or the first line of the crosswalk, once you pass that line, you are entitled to keep going. And so while it may sometimes seem like the person is, in the intersection or running the red light when the light is red, they may have actually crossed that limit line right before, like a fraction of a second before the light turned red,
exactly.
And it looks like they ran the red light. Again, I'm not saying what it is, because you have to look at each case individually, but to a lot of people, they don't recognize that maybe that person was actually not a violator. You need a camera to
exactly, Jay.
To be able
we're
to
up against the
tell
break here, the big hard break coming up. And if we haven't gotten to you, ladies and gentlemen, in the hour, a very quick hour, with our very special guest, who are we speaking with? Jay Bieber, Executive Director of Policy of the National Motorists Association, talking about the concept of the red light camera ripoff, as many people believe it is. So much more to come here on the Dr. Sky Experience. Always grateful for our special guests. And again, we're continuing on this subject as we move into the story of American exceptionalism in hour number 2, with what I consider to be some very important points, as you, at 1-800-848-9222, have the opportunity to join us. We will be right back.
The views and opinions expressed by the individual hosts and their guests do not necessarily reflect the policies or positions of WABC Radio, its management, or its sponsors.
Hiding your smile in photos? Embarrassed eating in public? If stained, crooked, or missing teeth have you living in quiet desperation? There's hope. Hello, I'm Dr. Don Roman, and my team can help. Book your consultation with us by March 30th, and we'll provide a free cosmetic smile analysis with a computer-generated preview of your dream smile. See your transformation before you commit. Call us at 201-843-0440 or visit us at romansmiles.com and start smiling.
This is John Katzmatidis. When growing all of our companies, I never had a fancy advertising agency. I just used common sense. We have been certified by Nielsen to be the #1 talk station in the country. Advertising, if you advertise with WABC, you will be a winner too. And why don't you email me at cats@wabcradio.com, and we will create...
Oh, yeah, I was upstairs. I was eating up some nachos. Let me say hello to everybody here. Kool-Aid. What is this? Dr. Sky Show on WABC. Read the title. Wow. Duh. Andy Randomson, hello. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, one of my favorite shows now. Ryan Rhino, hello. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, I miss Art Bell too. I do miss him. We all miss him. Hello, Miguel Rojas. Andy Randomson, yeah, Red Light Camera. I know. We have him here in Westchester County also. They're all over the place. It's awful. Hello, James Farley. I hope you're doing well. And welcome to the live stream, everybody.
City, maybe, we don't have a lot of money, 20%, but it allows the localities where the officer live to give the surviving spouse, a break because their partner, their husband or their wife paid the ultimate price to protect us. Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform. This is 77 WABC Newsroom Extra.
President Trump is rolling back greenhouse gas regulations that he says has made cars more expensive in the U.S. Standing alongside the EPA head Lee Zeldin at the White House, Trump said the crippling Obama-era restrictions on the U.S. auto industry have led to inferior vehicles that cost more.
This action will eliminate over $1.3 trillion of regulatory costs and help bring car prices tumbling down dramatically.
President Trump criticized the environmental policies of the Biden administration.
In 4 years under the Biden administration, the price of a new and used car rose more than 22%, all to facilitate the Green New Scam without achieving any meaningful impact on the environment.
Trump said he's delivering on one of his campaign promises.
During my campaign, I promised to cut 10 old regulations for every new regulation, and we've exceeded that.
Lisa G., 77 WABC News.
This is the Dr. Sky experience. Always look to the sky. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
Hey everybody, this is Kelly Hansen from Foreigner, and you are listening to the Dr. Sky experience on 77 WABC.
I can, in good conscience, allow the U.S. government to destroy privacy, internet freedom, and basic liberties for people around the world with this massive surveillance machine that they're secretly building. The words of Edward Snowden a long time ago. As we continue at 33 minutes after the hour, our very special guest as we move to the top of hour number 1, Jay Bieber, Executive Director of Policy of the National Motorist Association. And ladies and gentlemen, you out there, as we go to line number 3, welcome Pete. He's been patient in Lakewood. Good morning, Pete. How you doing this morning?
How you doing? I had one thing happen with a guy I worked with. He was driving a truck, and there was an accident in front of him, and he saw the accident. He went off the road, so we wouldn't be involved in it. He got a ticket for doing that, because the car behind him. What happened to me, we're talking about a rolling stop. When you leave Seminole National Park, I used to work at night, so I go to the beach all the time. And when you come out of Seminole National Park going south, the road is a sharp curve as you go on to 36 South. So you gotta stop and then pull forward. I came to a rolling stop, and the car is going at 60 miles an hour. You gotta wait to go. Officer stopped me. He told me I'm not going to be ridiculous. I'm looking for drunk drivers. Well, that's what he told me.
Yeah, well, it's better to be stopped by the police, obviously, than have a digital or some camera, just snap you. I mean, there could be explanations for everything. Jay, your response. I think Pete brings up some interesting points.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we at the National Motorist Association are not against policing, and we're not against policing of motorists. But we prefer that policing be done by person, in person, and fairly. And we're not in favor of pretextual stops or any of that kind of thing. But when somebody or when the police, duly believe that somebody has committed a violation and they pull them over, the police officer has discretion. They can talk to the person. They can make a judgment. They can see maybe they just want to give them a warning. Maybe they just want to talk to them. Maybe they want to find out what's going on. And then they let them on their way. But the problem with automated enforcement is that it becomes a binary, as you mentioned, which is did the person technically make the violation or not? And if that answer is yes, they click a mouse and somebody gets a ticket. And that is very different than a police officer on the street with, making their judgment calls on a day-to-day basis. And a lot of times, and this is truthful, that a lot of times police officers will see something and they say, you know what, it doesn't really rise to the level of us getting involved.
Yeah, the human factors in this case, right?
Exactly.
Let's have a conversation about it.
Exactly right.
If you're respectful to law enforcement, they should be respectful to you. But then again, that's a whole other subject, right?
Right.
As we talk, Jay, on this subject. Thanks to Pete in Lakewood for that particular conversation and comment. Let's go to line number 5. Silas in Staten Island. He's been patient. Good morning. Your concerns and questions or observations?
Yeah, basically it's a money grab, because even they do with the license now. Now, I've had a license since I'm 17, yet they tell me it's not ID. You're going to tell me you don't know that I'm an American citizen. I've been living here for 60 years, and they're going to make me pay $30 to get a real ID. And if I don't have the ID, then I pay $40 to get on a plane or something. So you said there are 250 million voters.
Right.
You know how much money that is? Charging everybody either $30 or
big money. You got it, Silas. Right. It's amazing. That's a whole other subject, too, with the whole national ID. But I don't know, Jay. This is interesting. I know there's what? Is there some information on your website about the national ID? Is the process? And about should we even have a license? I mean, did I read something correctly there? Somebody wrote in a column on that conversation, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a debate. It's really not something that the National Motors Association focuses on day to day, because we've got a lot on our plate, that are overtly abusing people. Here's the thing: do you need a license? Yes. States have broad police powers, and every state determines that in order for you to legally operate a motor vehicle, that you need a license to do so, and it's not a fight that the National Motor Association has ever taken on. But I think that there is a point at which, like when you get to the point of automated enforcement, you get a lot of these other things that we're talking about, is that, that's where we step in and say, okay, there's a limit, and the government has to play fair first before you can the government can go out and ticket you. I'll just give an example, which is speed limits, for example. Now, you can get a ticket for going over the speed limit, but the speed limit is supposed to be set reasonably based on the way the roadway is built. Otherwise, the government builds a roadway, and they encourage you, let's say, to go 45 miles an hour on the roadway. It's comfortable to drive at that speed, and that's the speed that the vast majority of people would travel on that road. Then they slap 35 miles an hour on that road as the speed limit, and then they ticket everybody, and oftentimes using speed cameras, for doing exactly what the government built the road to do.
Interesting.
And so it's basically setting you up for failure. It's a speed trap. It's entrapment. And so so these are the kinds of issues that we tend to take on, because, they're certainly a little bit easier to argue than, whether or not you should have a driver's license or not.
Well, here we go, Jay. From the trivia file, I've done a little research for our show here, and I don't always believe everything I read, nor to listeners, nor to you, on the internet. Allegedly, according to this report, the highest speed that was ever had a ticket associated, to it, was a driver in Texas, and the ticket was for someone going 242 miles per hour. Now, that's not a misprint. That's what I was reading.
Read the title.
That's amazing. I mean, what kind of vehicle did you have to do that?
I was going to say exactly the same thing. I was like, which car is that? I get one.
Could have been a Bugatti Veyron. Somebody said that's like, I don't know, I think that went 300 miles an hour. But again, ladies and gentlemen, we don't condone
and I'm joking, of course. We don't condone unreasonable speeds. But here's another thing that most people don't realize, is that our interstate highway system is modeled on the Autobahn, which, as many people know, and sections of the Autobahn, there's no speed limit. You can go 100, 120 miles an hour. I mean, they do a lot more driver training there, so people are better equipped to do so. But as far as the design of the roadway is designed to handle our highways are designed to handle speeds 100 miles plus. I'm not encouraging everybody to go out now and do that, but as far as the roadway being able to handle it, and even our vehicles being able to handle it, that's not a problem. It's a question of whether the drivers are safely doing so. And most people also may remember that there was no speed limit during the day in Montana for a long time, and
that's right.
That when I moved from New Jersey to California.
That's an interesting fact, Jay. But here's another interesting fact, that if you were to go to court and you wanted to be a wise guy or a wise girl, don't say this to the judge if you're trying to get some kind of mercy. If you can explain it logically with critical thinking, don't say, as they listen to the Dr. Sky Experience, hey, I heard the guy on there tell us that the speed of light is 670 million miles an hour, which is what it is, the speed of light. But, Your Honor, I wasn't going anywhere near that speed. So there you go. A little lighthearted as we move through here. Let's continue. You are lighting up the phone lines, Jay, as I would imagine on this subject. Thanks to Silas before in Staten Island. Let's go to line number 1. Robert in Queens. You are on the air. Your concerns. Have you ever gotten one of these type of tickets? If not, your concerns. Tell us.
Got plenty of them. They just put one in my neighborhood, and so viewers, the listeners should understand that, at least in New York, I live in New York, it started with only speed cameras only for schools, school districts, because kids, because drivers were not paying attention when kids were coming out of buses. So it says only going to be in schools. Then it started expanding everywhere else. There's one right near my block. There's not even a school nearby. But so usually it's always a pretext. They say, well, we're doing it to save lives, and we don't want people getting hit by cars. But then once they start, they don't stop. See, that's the problem. And now it's so out of control. And there's no one fighting back. And my question also is, does all these speed cameras and red light cameras, are they mostly in like liberal states? Because I don't think states run by Republicans have all these restrictions. Right? Wow. I don't know if that's true, but
David, you bring up some good points, and I hate to cut you short because the clock runs here. But if Jay would give a response back to this, we appreciate your concern. You're right. What color is it? Red and blue states? Who has more, if there is such a thing? What say you, Jay?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, it's probably true, and again, we don't have specific statistics on this, that more states run by people who are more likely to believe that the money that you pay in fines is going to do good by them collecting it. So states in which high taxes and that sort of thing are the norm are probably more likely to do this, but it's not exclusive. We find people across the political aisle across the political spectrum, rather, in which they're in favor of automated enforcement. I'm sure that there are listeners here who probably consider themselves more on the conservative side, yet they probably think these things are a good idea. And I think that unfortunately there are some elected officials that do so. I mean, in Arizona, for example, we've been trying to get the cameras banned for 10 years to put it on the ballot to let the people vote on it.
No, that's an interesting story.
And those are Republican legislatures.
Wow.
Okay, and they still have not been able to do that. Now, there was a Republican governor who eliminated the cameras on the highways, but the individual cities can still run these things, and they still do, and they make a lot of money off of them. And so if it were true that it was just a partisan issue, then you would find there would not be in any of say conservative states and only in liberal states. That's not how it works. So
more with Jay Bieber, ladies and gentlemen, as we go to the break here, as we move to the end, sadly to say, of hour number 1 of the Dr. Sky Experience. We'll be right back with your questions and comments, still at 1-800-848-9222.
All right, so they're going on break there. Hello, RT08. I hope you're doing well. Good evening. Well, good morning. It's past midnight here. And Michael, let me get my lenses. I'm sorry. Where the hell are my glasses? What the hell are my glasses? I'm going to squint and read this one. Sure. Michael Bernard. What is this? This is Dr. Sky Show on WABC 770 out of New York City. I live in Yonkers, New York. So we're hearing Dr. Sky Show. It's a show that is basically like he's a frequent guest on Coast to Coast. So WABC does put some of the other shows on, especially on the weekend, especially overnight. So he's been on this station for the last few months now, which is nice to hear. We don't want to hear political banter all day. I mean, I do listen to some of it, but we all need a break from it too. So it is nice to hear this. So there you go. Hope that answers the question.
Hi, this is Jack Jones, a legend in my own mind.
And welcome to the live stream, my friend.
Romantic songs, especially around Valentine's Day, reminding you that you are listening to the Dr. Sky Show.
Thank you for watching.
Stop the music. Time to get ready for love.
46 minutes after the hour, we continue with our special guest, Jay Bieber. And you, ladies and gentlemen, out there, 1-800-848-9222. Line number 3, he's been patient. Anthony in Long Island, you are on the air. Good morning.
Thank you, gentlemen, for this discussion. I would like to ratchet up the concern with regard to the abuses of these modern technologies as they've come into fruition. They have totally violated the premise of the Constitution as well as the Bill of Rights. Barack Obama's first signing statement as president when he came into office was to dismiss a standing lawsuit against AT&T. It was called Hepting versus AT&T for having spied. It was Mark Klein, a AT&T executive who was ostensibly a whistleblower, and the case was dismissed. It claimed that the state's rights to secrecy trumped the Constitution, which is not true. I mean, the Constitution comes first before any of these laws. But I would also draw your attention to CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike Technologies is basically internet surveillance, like a large octopus over all of our communications, everything we do, everywhere we go, our smart meters on our homes, etc. But more importantly, you don't even need the red light cameras any longer, because if your phone, whatever device you're carrying in your pocket, as you pass under a light that turns red, it knows. And so, I mean, all these technologies are being abused to the behest of entities that we have no connection to or realization of what's actually being done, And I don't know where this ends, but it's not good. I mean, it's...
Well, Anthony, hey, you become my special friend, too. I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying here. Jay, obviously, he brings up good points, Anthony, and your response. This is interesting.
Yeah, look, I mean, like everything he's saying is makes a lot of sense, and we have to be really careful about this technology. But the government is only as powerful as the people let it be. This is the biggest point that I'd like to make out of this entire conversation. Whether it's automated enforcement, whether it's surveillance, whether it's the kinds of things Anthony was talking about, any of these sorts of things that the government uses against you. There's obviously a very famous story that when after the Constitutional Convention, and someone asked Ben Franklin whether they had created a republic or a monarchy. He said, "A republic, if we can keep it." And and here's the thing: we won't keep it. We won't keep our constitutional protections if people don't demand that we do. And I don't want to call people sheep, but the vast majority of people, they're worried about their individual lives day to day. It's certainly understandable, but there is also a bigger picture here that, at least as much as individual people can get involved, whether it's with the National Motors Association, an organization like us, or any other organization that fights for your constitutional rights every day, that you have to get involved. I mean, you have to decide, am I going to just kind of let this happen, or am I going to be of service? Am I going to be of service to my community, to my country, in the sense of legally pushing back against the excesses of these things? And I'll tell you, they can't do it. They can't get away with it if people rise up. And again, respectfully and not in a dangerous way, but people rise up and show up at meetings and they demand answers from their elected officials, and they say, we're not going to stand for this. We don't want it, and you need to stop doing this. It's whether it's the flock cameras, the surveillance cameras, the license plate readers, automated enforcement, or any of these other things. If the people rise up, I've seen it happen time and time again, that they end these programs because politicians are interested in one thing, and that's getting elected and getting their next job. That's what they're interested in.
No, you're right. And it's so interesting. His website, who is he? Jay Bieber. He is motorist.org. You can learn so much there, ladies and gentlemen. And there's an email there also, if I may take the liberty of giving it out, nma@motorist.org, if I have it correct. I hope I do, Jay.
Yes, that's correct. And also, if you don't remember it, just go to the website. There's a web form for Contact Us, and it goes to the same place. And, if somebody wants to send me a personal message, hopefully a nice one, then you're welcome to do so in that way. So yeah, we welcome communications, especially if somebody's, heard something on the radio, they have a question, they want to know how they can help, contact us.
Always be active, and like we always say, always refuse to be a victim, especially when we talk about subjects like the surveillance. And if I was giving out a prize, all of our callers are, excellent. We love them all. But I would have given it to Anthony for this hour because I think he brought in a lot of the focus on what it is, not just from the small side, but the bigger picture there. In the last few minutes I have with you, I know it would probably be hard to do this in detail, but let me get right to it. When you have one of these tickets, let's say here, somebody in Arizona gets one. I'm just using this generally. Apparently, I'm hearing here in Arizona that apparently some of the cities, Jay, have had to retract those because the signature on there was not of an active law enforcement or judge. In other words, am I correct? They were actually using the signature of a retired judge, which would automatically, nullify that document if indeed it were done that way. Am I correct?
You are correct, and it's been a big deal here in Arizona, and so let me explain to folks how this happens. So understand that this ticket, it's not only an automated ticket in terms of the camera that captures the information, but in terms of issuing the ticket, there's no person that actually signs it. It's a standard signature. It's part of a file, and it gets automatically applied. Right. Right. The auto pen. That's exactly right. So what happened in this particular case that you're referring to is that the judge who had signed these tickets, that judge had retired, but nobody realized it, and so they kept using this quote unquote auto pen with this judge's signature for many, many months, and this has happened apparently in a number of places, and so at least one city is having to refund, I think, 2 years worth of tickets. That's literally millions of dollars. And and you know what? I'm not shedding any tears for them.
No, I hear you.
I shed a tear for the taxpayers who are actually going to pick up the bill. You better believe it.
You're right on this. You're the sleuth, and this is interesting, and we always appreciate your words here on this subject. And also, define once again, you were saying in many cases there's markers on the street in this perimeter, like in the box. Describe that, because sometimes if people just pay these without doing an investigation, well, tell us more, because there's certain lines that you go over. How does that work? Certain data that's being collected.
Right. So first of all, I can't cover enough of it in this short period of time. So people should go to our website, and if you can't find the information there, send us an email. But let me give a quick thing. So in most states, and this is actually different in Arizona, in most states, before the light turns red, you have to get to what they call the limit line. Now that limit line is going to be a painted line on the roadway before the first line of the crosswalk, or if that's not there, the first line of the crosswalk, or if there's nothing there, and that's very rare for a signalized intersection, then it would be the entry to the intersection itself, where where the curb lines kind of imaginarily go across the roadway. The problem in Arizona is that Arizona is unique from every other state, which is they don't. Even if you get to that limit line, you're still not safe. You have to get all the way, the nose of your car has to get all the way across that line of the intersection, that curb line, the extension of the curb line. So you have to get another 20 feet before that light turns turns red, and most people are going to get a ticket possibly because of that extra 20 feet is depending on how slow you're driving, that's another half a second. And again, every fraction of a second with these cameras matter. Like I said, the vast majority are issued within the first half a second. So if you eliminated that, you'd eliminate most of the tickets. And so it's a trap. It's a red light camera trap. The other thing is, if you ever get one of these tickets, you have to make sure that yellow light time is set properly. That every state has different protocols for that, but there is going to be a standard almost everywhere. So you have to find out where that standard is. We can help people figure that out, and also figure out whether or not the state has followed their rules first and foremost. And we almost always encourage folks, if to at least think about fighting back to start with. Don't just roll over. Even if, like, there's places where you can just, instead of just paying the ticket, you can take traffic school or something like that, and at least avoid the point on your license, and things of that nature. So there's ways to not just kind of get completely rolled over, but understand the goal is for them to take your money. That's what they want. They want your money.
I hear you clearly. That's right. It's a cash cow, and through this hour, short as it was, I hope, ladies and gentlemen, that with these special guests, may wonder, we go off a little bit on the rails, but proudly. We just don't always talk about astronomy, space, aviation, quantum physics, and mechanics. We have celebrity guests, and every once in a while, stories of American exceptionalism. And again, I really appreciate you, Jay, for spending time with us. Motorist.org, learn so much more. There's a plethora of information there. And as you mentioned before, why not join if you want to fight? And at least, have your money go to something that is obviously part of the fight, and to be part of the solution. So we really appreciate you on this one.
And I appreciate the opportunity to join you and your audience. And we should do this again sometime.
Yes, I would like that. And the feedback, again, ladies and gentlemen, if you have emails for me, it's drsky@wabcradio.com. We always try to solicit other guests that people out there may think should become here behind the microphone and also in front of the microphone. We can't guarantee everybody that, you may send us, but we do appreciate your commentary, and I'm sure Jay would appreciate commentary back. Thank you, and I wish you the best, and watch out for those red light cameras. As the story goes, the red light camera ripoff, as other people have said, off of the website that you're so proud to be part of as the Executive Director of Policy, the National Motorists Association. Have a good morning, and hope we do talk soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. As we come up to the top of the hour, ladies and gentlemen, in hour number 2, we continue with our subject matter of American exceptionalism. We'll be speaking with author. He's been a guest here a number of times, Drew Allen, author of a number of books. Yes, America's Last Stand. When will you vote to save? Well, hopefully you will vote to save, or maybe if you don't, maybe America could be destroyed. And his other book, The Martyrdom of Charlie Kirk, For Christ and Country, and so much more. And for our Sky Report, for those people that wonder, hey, we do talk about the realms that are way out there in the universe. We find, of course, as the coincidence of Chinese New Year, it's not by coincidence. Their year, 4724, is always centered around a new moon. The lunar cycle is at the new phase on the 17th, and thus the beginning of a Chinese New Year, or as we say in the world of astronomy, a new moon about to be born from the dark of the moon as it continues. Their year, 4724, the year of the fire horse. We'll be right back as the Dr. Sky show and experience continues here in Theater of the Mind, ladies and gentlemen. Don't touch that dial.
All right, got a break there. So hour number 1 is over. Hour number 2 coming up. Thank you, RT08. Yeah, I need to pin that, and I mean, it's okay, and people ask. I guess because they're scrolling, and yeah, I need to be aware that when I'm streaming vertically, it's kind of hard to see the description and all that. Usually, when you scroll, the shorts, the shorts library or whatever, what's going on in shorts. It's not like regular YouTube format where you can see the title and all that. So I apologize, Michael Bernard, for earlier. Anyway, this is Dr. Sky's show, WABC in 770 out of New York City. It is a science and technology show. He was a frequent guest. Well, he still is. He still goes on Coast to Coast. So those of you that listen to Coast, it's a similar vibe. Coast to Coast talks about everything, and they sometimes they really go into the deep end, like the UFO stuff and all that, or the psychic stuff. So the psychic stuff I really don't care for. But anyway, everybody has their own thing. Not knocking it. I just usually when they talk about psychics, I kind of tune out. But yeah, it's a similar thing, and I'm glad WABC is incorporating this type of content. Not everybody wants to hear politics 24/7. I certainly don't want to hear it. Actually, as a matter of fact, there's a little too much of it now. And actually, very lately, I haven't been listening to any of it. I'm just sick of it. I'm kind of sick of this whole thing already. You know, I know the first comment I got here, somebody came on and said, "This is a political banter," and I had to quiet him real quick. No, it's not. This is Dr. Sky's show. I understand WABC does, cover it, and that's their business. They want to cover that as their business, but again, there's other good content here. Earlier, before this, I was listening to Tony Orlando music show. So I'm glad that he's incorporating this stuff, especially on the weekend. Other stuff. I'm hoping he's gonna put more other content, especially the evening on weekends. I know tomorrow we have Anthony Cumia from 8 to 11, and he's funny. And then before that, I guess it's Joe Piscopo. You know, the Frank Sinatra. So we're gonna all get a little burned out with the news, especially all these days with the Nancy Guthrie disappearance. I'm at this point now where I think the police, the local sheriff, whatever, I think they're pretty much incompetent. I hate to say it. So, it's my opinion. I think that they really botched the investigation early. And then the more I hear about the case, it's actually pretty sad. Especially, for example, the Ring Cam. I have a Ring doorbell. And, when I first bought it, I didn't know that you need a subscription to retrieve your old. They give you a free trial. So if I want to retrieve anything that happened in the past, it has to be by subscription service. And of course, in my case, I don't have a subscription service. I just, the Ring Door Cam is what it is. If people ring the doorbell, I look through my app. I say, okay, this guy is a delivery guy, whatever, okay. And I'll tell them right there, can you just leave the package right there? Thank you, whatever. But if you want the data, that's a membership. And it's kind of sucks that anyway, I don't have a membership. And I know in this case, the same thing happened with them. She didn't have a membership to the Ring Cam data. So I believe the FBI or whoever went to Ring and said we need to retrieve that data because she didn't have a membership on it. And my thing is, if your mother, you're making $16 million a year, you could even put a membership on a Ring Cam for your mom. I mean, seriously, how cheap is this woman? The more I hear about this case, I really noticed that Savannah Guthrie is a cheapskate. She really is a cheapskate. It's pretty sad. This should have never happened if she had better security. Oh, sorry. I turned it off for a minute. All right, back to the program. Just had a rant about that because I heard about that Ring Cam data and I was like, are you kidding me?
Leads from Team USA.
Oh, they're still talking. Okay, so I'm not missing anything. Yeah, I mean, it's really pathetic that that's going on, I mean, we're talking about, she's making $16 million a year in the Today Show. She's making, but we're talking about $1 million a month. Over $1 million a month she's making. You couldn't get a subscription for a Ring Cam for your mom? Are you kidding me? The more I hear about this case, I really think she just, yeah, okay, you live in this house and, whatever, they'll check up on you once in a while and that's it. Like, really, it's really bizarre. Like, it just tells me that the woman's a cheapskate. I mean, seriously. Yeah, I don't have it because I don't really want it because I have a whole bunch of cameras. I have cameras pretty much in every room upstairs. Every room upstairs has a cam, so I can retrieve data from anywhere, including my outdoor security camera. So for me, I don't need it, but I'm just blown away by it that she makes $16 million a year. She can even buy a freaking membership for her own mother. Stupid. Sorry. There you go.
The topics that
All right,
we
back to the
talk about: astronomy, space, aviation, weather, and celebrity guests in the mix, as you hear many of the promos from so many of these wonderful individuals who are alive and have also passed on to the infinite. But stories of American exceptionalism, ladies and gentlemen, what does that mean? And that, I think, in this particular hour, will get a much better definition, just in case you were curious, and I'm sure you are. Our special guest for this hour is Drew Thomas Allen. He's the West Coast Vice President at Publius PR, a premier communications firm where Allen has worked as a publicist for many of the biggest names in politics: Charlie Kirk, Peter Navarro, Dr. Naomi Wolf, Dr. Ben Carson, Alan Dershowitz, and Carrie Lake, just to name a few. In addition to running PR campaigns for some of the most recognizable names in politics, Allen is a widely published columnist, in-demand political analyst on radio and television, and how about this? The host of the popular Drew Allen Show podcast. With that, a hearty welcome to Drew Allen. Hey, thanks for being with us again. I always appreciate your information that you pass on to this audience. How you doing?
Oh man, it's going to be an amazing show tonight. Jay Bieber was amazing. What a great segue, Anthony. What a great caller. This mention of the 1787, Benjamin Franklin, who was an 80-something-year-old man coming out of the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia. It was the summer was hot. They'd been sweating in there for 4 months, and they came out. And Elizabeth Powell's the one, by the way, who came up to him and asked him point blank, hey, well, actually it's recorded in history. So she said, well, doctor, what have we got, a republic or a monarchy? And he said, a republic if you can keep it. And it's perfect for the circumstances today.
And of course, the trivia question that people like Jay Leno used to ask these questions on the street corner to see how much we know about our civic responsibilities. The question would be simply this, kind of humorous in a way: what president is on the $100 bill, right? And that makes no sense at all, because Benjamin Franklin was not a president. There you go. But Drew, on a serious note, so many interesting things to talk about. I mean, one of your books, America's Last Stand, Will You Vote to Save or Destroy America? Take us back in the time machine. This was about the election. It's hard to believe that we're in 2026 already. Give us a synopsis of that, because it was kind of a reply back to what the Biden administration, in your opinion, was not doing, and where we stand today. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, it's amazing. I mean, I remember vividly, I went on Eric Metaxas' show, and he said to me, you're the second person, to say that, this is an inflection point in American history, the most important moment since, the Revolution, the Civil War, now we have this election. And he said, well, that's me and you that believe that and have said that. And it was absolutely true. I mean, it was such a big moment. So I wrote this book to explain to people kind of where we were at this moment in history, how significant it was to our future, and what we risked losing if we lost that election, if we didn't elect Trump over Kamala Harris. And, it's a timeless book because it covers the history of the Democrat Party. It records for history and posterity, what we endured, what we suffered under the 4 years of the Biden administration. And it argued, to get back to this is what we're always fighting, right, in this country, to get back to basic principles.
Mm-hmm. Take us back, your early childhood, or who knows, maybe it's just recent. I don't know. It's always, everybody has a different revelation and a timeline. Your passion for this particular side of the political, spectrum. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, because apparently you've traveled to Italy, and I think, not putting words in your mouth, that was a decisive moment to see, so we get a definition from you of the term American exceptionalism. What does it mean to you from your early days?
Yeah, look, I'm kind of a unique bird. I grew up in a conservative family. I grew up listening to Rush Limbaugh on the radio, WABC, right? Rush Limbaugh's station. And but I wasn't, apart from my father and listening to Rush in the car. I was surrounded by liberals my whole life. I went to an elitist all-male college prep school in Dallas, Texas, Jesuit. And then I went to Pepperdine, which is kind of conservative-ish, but I was a theater major, which wasn't, conservative. And so I was an actor. And then I moved to New York City to be an actor, to pursue that. So I lived in Manhattan, East 62nd, between 1st and 2nd. I lived there for about a year. And I got this crazy opportunity, which is a story for another time, but it led me to Milan, Italy, where I was 23 years old. Kind of my first real significant job out of college was working for Marc Jacobs. So, people in New York City know Marc Jacobs in the fashion world. So I had no retail experience, but I spoke some Italian because I studied in Florence in college, and I had this, I loved Italy so much, and I put a lot of effort into learning the language. And so they were opening a store, the first Marc Jacobs store in Milan. Well, actually, the first Marc Jacobs store in Italy. And they needed somebody who spoke Italian. And so I got sent over there a month after this interview. I left my acting kind of career, at least at the time, behind, moved to Milan, and I opened a retail store. And I didn't know what my job was going to be, but I was the assistant manager with no retail experience. And so I had that experience, and I lived there for about 2 years doing that. I lived in a quasi-socialist country, and it was an amazing experience. And it changed my life, too, because as much as I love Italy, I really do. You won't find anybody who loves Italy more than me. I saw what was different about kind of Europe, other kind of experiments out there, and the one I had grown up a part of, which of course is the greatest experiment in human history, the most successful, which is the United States of America. And so my point is simply that I've been incubating with liberals and people who don't think like me my entire life, and yet they have failed to convince me to come to the other side.
Interesting. No, it must have been a great experience. I mean, on my bucket list, I don't even like the word, I'd like to look at Italy. I've never been there, and so many of my good friends who have relatives and family there. It must be a beautiful experience. But talking about the political differences, you described it as what? Semi-socialist. Is that how I'm hearing correctly?
Yeah. I mean, it is a socialist country. Very few things are pure socialism. They allow certain aspects of capitalism in there because capitalism works and it provides some kind of economic opportunity. But American exceptionalism, it's derived from this country. And what makes this country the greatest country in the history of mankind. By the way, I just want to give people some perspective here because, we're going about our busy lives and we're living in the moment, and people who are living in the moment, in the present, can't really comprehend or realize how significant, the present is a lot of times. And so, it took Rome, for example, the Roman Empire, about 400 years to reach its kind of pinnacle, and then it started to decline slowly after that. We're about to celebrate our 250 years of birth since, the Declaration of Independence.
Yes, proud moment.
And so just think about that. I mean, the Roman Empire has nothing on the United States of America, and people still talk about the Roman Empire. And our GDP is $25 trillion, and that is greater than the four subsequent biggest economies combined, which would be, China, Japan, Germany, and India. So that's pretty special. But what makes us unique in all the world, of course, is our view of the government. And this is really what I experienced in Italy. There was a cloud that hung over me, this kind of oppressive feeling just as I walked around the city, because the bureaucracy and the red tape, the way the Italians view the relationship between the government and themselves is very different from ours. The American experiment relies upon something called the consent of the governed. And what that really boils down to is our Constitution, which is a contract between us and our government, which deems we, the people, the citizens,
exactly,
as the master, and the government, those who are in positions of power, as actually our servants. And so the battle we've been involved in for all of mankind's history, and even now in the United States of America, is that. Do we still declare ourselves sovereign? Do we still declare ourselves master? Or are we going to fall back into this chasm that all of world history has experienced in other countries today and in the past, which, these people like Italians, they believe that, their rights come from the government. Here, our rights don't come from the government. They come from God, our creator.
You bet. Now, you say it so well, Drew. Our special guest, Drew Allen, he's an author, a publicist, and, ladies and gentlemen, an all-around good guy, in my opinion. We've talked about things. The subject here, as we move into the Dr. Sky experience, with every so often the conversation, which we're proud to talk about, American exceptionalism, and people, of course, that can explain it better than myself as we live this, as we move to the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. Questions and comments always at 1-800-848-9222. Drew has been kind enough to agree to be with us for the entire hour, and we appreciate his time. I want to go back, not a civics lesson, but I think you could explain it in probably even a better way. This is your area of study. Many people in legacy media, we keep hearing democracy, democracy, democracy. Though we are a representative democracy, if that's a correct term, I think I have it right from my own education. But we do not hear what the real thing is, and that we are a constitutional republic. And help define that to people out there that may find that, well, as a new revelation. That's what we are, a constitutional republic, as opposed to just a democracy.
Yeah, look, a direct democracy is a disaster. That's what the Greeks experienced in Athens in the past. People that want to exploit people's emotions, which is predominantly what the Democrat Party relies upon, emotional arguments, they can convince you to do all kinds of stupid things and make stupid decisions. So our founders, the founders, all of these systems that were set up in the past, there were all versions of tyranny of one form or another, the founding fathers were aware of. And so they decided to set up something radically different, which was a constitutional republic. And that's not it's a form of democracy, but it was a radically new form of democracy. And so that's why we have 2 senators for each state. And then you have a House of Representatives, of course, which is apportioned based on the population of each state. And so in that sense, there is a intentional slowing down the process to make decisions. And so one of the most frustrating things about our system for many people is that it's slow and it's hard to get things accomplished. But the reason, and I think overwhelmingly it's beneficial, because we can't go and do stupid things that alter this country to the point that we, eradicate ourselves off the face of the earth. And so you have a lot of congestion, obviously, in the House and Senate, and a debate's required. And that's really the roadblock of, that's not the roadblock, sorry, that's the kind of one of the foundations of this country is its debate. Charlie Kirk represented that, other people as well. And they understood, like Charlie would say, if we stop talking to one another, we stop debating, we have violence. And it was very astute observation.
That's right, and he took on those that disagreed with him and wanted to have a civil kind of conversation. But wow, I don't know if I'd have the patience, and I would always hope and pray I could. When you're sitting out there putting yourself in that particular environment, some of those people were just downright rude as hell. But the reality in the situation, Charlie wanted the conversation with them because who knows, in his mind, right, Drew? He thought there could be, and he did convince many others that maybe there is another side to what they thought they were right about. 1-800-848-9222 as we explore the definitions of American exceptionalism. A very special guest, author and publicist Drew Allen. His book, of course, that we started the conversation off a book back in 2024, America's Last Stand. Will you vote to save or destroy America? And you know this because so many of the greats that have appeared here on this great powerhouse radio station, Talk Radio 77 WABC, the likes of Rush Limbaugh and so many others, and even, the late Charlie Kirk. He had an opportunity here and was likely, and very well liked as he broadcast from this powerful station. The station, as you probably know, and many people hear it all the time, they talk about and they mean it. We all do. Truth, justice, and the American way. Fascinating stuff, Drew, and it's just really interesting. I want to also jump into, before we go to the big break at the bottom of the hour, The second book, The Martyrdom of Charlie Kirk for Christ and Country. Talk about this, because I have so many questions about your relationship with Charlie, and I'm sure many of the people out there who followed Charlie would certainly like to hear if they have questions about that too. Tell us that.
Well, look, I mean, first and foremost, I don't claim to be Charlie's best friend. I was his publicist for a stint, for his second to last book, Right Wing Revolution. I do know people who were very close to Charlie Kirk, and I think my message is actually more powerful in a way because his death forced a transformation in my own life. And, the older you get, you understand this, everyone listening understands this. The older you get, the more people die. And I've had so many relatives and others die in my life, and for a moment you pause and you start to think about mortality, and then it kind of fades and you go back to your old routine. Charlie's death changed me. So I would say the person you're talking to right now is absolutely a different person, a different Drew Allen than existed before Charlie died. And that's predominantly due to the fact that we had so many similarities. I've got an almost 3-year-old and another daughter. I've got 2 daughters, one almost 3 and one who just turned 1. His kids were about the same age. Right. He believed the same things that I did, and he was killed for his beliefs. And I cried for a week after he passed away. It was just this intolerable pain that I felt, and I wanted to understand why. And so part of the book, For Christ and Country, The Martyrdom of Charlie Kirk, is explaining that experience and how it transformed me. And what I realized, I wanted to dig into Charlie more because, I've been the publicist for Tulsi Gabbard. I've had so many famous clients, and some of them I know. Most of them, actually, I know better than I knew Charlie. And the truth is, even if they had died, they would not have transformed my life in the same way that Charlie's death had.
Yeah, very powerful.
And it was the faith element. So, I was kind of an autopilot Christian. I believe in Jesus, obviously, in his death and resurrection. But I was lazy. And I didn't really read a lot of scripture. I didn't dig into the Bible a lot, and I realized what I wanted to know was Charlie was unique because you won't find Republicans or Democrats that are eager to go into the lion's den, right? They don't like hostile environments. They want to be bailed out.
Right, as most politicians do not want to do that. You bet. They may take the easy path for the majority, right? Mm-hmm.
Yep, they fear debate. And Charlie was eager to debate. He wanted to debate, and he loved it. You can see how excited he got in those environments. And I wanted to know, look, a lot of Americans possess a lot of those qualities that Charlie has. I have a lot of those qualities, but I had this kind of fear, residual fear, because, look, I lost pretty much all of my friends throughout my childhood and life because of voting for Trump in 2020. And it was it was a pretty heartbreaking experience for me. And so I still have this residual fear about coming out and really talking honestly with conviction about stuff because, and at the end of the day, I realized I'm fearing the condemnation of man more than the condemnation of God. And so I wanted to understand, how do I get to become somebody more like Charlie? And the root of that was his faith and his conviction. And so it set me on this new path to be fearless and also to kind of replicate and emulate what he offered us in his life, his great life. 31 years old, and people that are 60 or 70 or 80 have never achieved what he's done, and they respect him as much as the 19, 18-year-old does. And that conviction came from his faith, first and foremost. And then he just was a voracious reader. He studied, communism. He studied all of the arguments of the left, and he just rigorously devoted himself to the truth. And I realized
something I find too, Drew. Excuse me for interrupting, but this is something even more fascinating. I'm reading about this, and I think I saw a commercial or something, or a promotion for a new book, I think, after his death. And this is interesting. He says, basically in simple English, he takes a day where he turns off his phone, he doesn't take calls, and he just gets deeply involved in the family. And that's that's the sacred time. It's like nothing can interrupt that. And how would you respond to this? I mean, this is a deep one. Many of the failures that people talk about today in this country and others is the lack of family. How would you respond? I mean, Charlie had this. He was saying this, shut it off for a day. Don't take calls. I mean, it's hard. If you're a business person, how does one aspire to that high level, of dedication? Because, wow, he sure gave us some good ideas about that. Turn the phones off. No calls. You just spend time with your children and your family. That's a beautiful thing in my mind.
Well, yes, it is. And so we're talking about American exceptionalism.
Yes.
Charlie Kirk represented American exceptionalism because at his root and his core, he wanted to improve himself every single day. He wanted to become a better version of himself day after day. It's like the SEALs say, the only, what did they say? The easiest day was yesterday or something like that.
And that's the name of the book. So, right, one of the shooters.
Yeah.
Allegedly Osama bin Laden, right. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. The only easy day was yesterday is what they say, I think. But,
right.
Yeah, so Charlie did that, and tell me the question again, actually, because I was going to go off on some other tangent.
No. What we're talking about here is, again, what Charlie had said to people, and I think it's so amazing. It's a simple thing, and yet it doesn't hit the power of what he was saying is, for all of our busy lives, we just took a day, he's just making a suggestion. Spend the time, turn off your phone and go back to the devotion of your family, because in my humble opinion, I'm not the only person who thinks like this, the lack of a good family, and, that's probably the root cause of so many of the problems that we have. The family is the building block. Amen.
Yeah. So, it's priorities. At the end of the day, like the secular world tells us that what's going to bring us happiness and fulfillment is success, our bank accounts, how we're perceived in terms of, our reputation, and all of that is actually false. And I've learned this through the school of hard knocks of my own life. And your family is absolutely fundamental and important. And so the idea that he would actually celebrate the Sabbath, right? So he would put his phone in a drawer at whatever, at the end of the day on Friday night. He wouldn't take it out again until Sunday. He was making himself available to his family. And the problem with modern technology, of course, is that we're expected to be available 24/7 to everyone else. And the upshot of that is that we don't pay attention and we don't tend to the garden that is our family, which is the greatest thing that God can give us. And I can speak to this personally because I've got 2 young girls and a wife. And I struggle with this all the time because I don't, you're focused on making more money or, your career. But the only thing that really matters at the end of the day in terms of your legacy is your children. And Charlie Kirk understood that the nuclear family, a mother and father, husband and wife, and their kids, was throughout history the most important building block to a healthy society. And we've seen the left in particular in this country chip away at that and deny that truth. And it's led us to a place where we have violence in this country. We have fatherless homes. We have children that are being basically brushed aside or even abused in the name of progress.
Wow. Drew Allen, we're at the time of the break here, as we call it, as you know even better, at the hard break at the bottom of hour number 2, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Dr. Sky Experience. Your questions and comments. We're talking about American exceptionalism. Our special guest, Drew Allen, author and publicist, 1-800-848-9222, as we move through and navigate to the mid-portion of February 2026. We'll be right back.
The views and opinions expressed by the individual hosts and their guests do not necessarily reflect the policies or positions of WABC.
All right, so we got about half an hour left in the show. Of course, they're talking about something, it's okay. It's just, first hour was about the, basically the red lights and all that camera stuff. Yeah, so sometimes he goes down this road, it's okay, he's a conservative, kind of like me. Funny thing happened to me this morning when I go to my Blue Sky account, which I don't really care about. I just have a Blue Sky account because I know what's there. So, I guess when you create a Blue Sky account, you have to. My son is really going having fun upstairs playing. So that's why you hear that stuff. That's just my son skipping around playing whatever in his old house. Sorry. So, you got to pick. I guess when you first create an account, you got to pick what your interests are or something like that, I guess. Or, something like that. So one is World Ham Radio or Ham Radio World. I don't know what it's called. So I found out today that I got banned from it. I got banned from World Ham Radio because of my channel. I mean, because of my channel. I guess I'm what they call extreme right propaganda, which is stupid. I'm not extreme right. I'm just common sense. That's all it is. People put these stupid labels. And of course, we're talking about Blue Sky. This is what I'm talking about. This is why, like the first person that came on here, political banter, Trump network. No, you can come in here and talk whatever you want to talk about. It's okay. I got plenty of people that I know that are liberals. And most of them 99% of them are common sense. And they don't get worked up over, Trump. But you have the ones that do get worked up. Like they just a permanent Trump derangement syndrome. It's crazy. It's crazy. These people are really like crazy. They are. They're crazy. There's no other way to put it. Just, So, what is he trying to do when he said, "Oh, I ban you"? I guess because each of those topics is run by somebody in Blue Sky. It's called Blue Sky. It's stupid. I have like 4,000 people there following me. I just post the same thing I post on my ex. Well, not. I shouldn't say that. No, I don't do that. Actually, I don't. All I post is my videos. Whatever video I shoot on YouTube, I post it there. Not all of them, because I know some of them cover these topics. I don't post those. But I guess somebody came to my channel and they saw that, maybe the other night I was talking about something. My thing is like, you know what? Like stop crying over this stuff already. Like seriously, like get over. People need to get over this stuff already. Yeah, you know what I posted? I just posted but I guess they went to my channel and started looking at my videos and they saw probably that, I'm not a bleeding heart liberal. That's what happened. So it took one person to decide on Blue Sky, oh, he's not going to be part of this group, World Ham Radio. You see what I'm saying? It's one person that is doing that. That's what I'm saying. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. But I don't care. I don't care. I don't get much. By the way, in terms of my metrics, I don't get much traffic from Blue Sky. It's pretty much dead. It's a dead social network anyway. But, the fact that I could accumulate 4,000 followers right away, it just tells me that people really, most people don't care about my politics. They just want to see radio video stuff. So I'm not on that group. I'm not on that group now. He banned me.
Both sides of the earth, but we also produce.
No, I'm still on. It's just that group. So I guess the group member is a real, diehard liberal, and he just said, "Oh, even though he has radio content, I cannot let him in my group because, it's so stupid. It really is stupid. We're talking about grown adults here. I mean, seriously. This is why I have my channel. So people come here and they feel welcome. They don't come here, like the other channels. They can't talk about certain things because they get all, because the host is too, whatever. I don't, like that first comment that I had on my stream, I silenced him right away because I tell people, when you come to my chat, say hello. Don't come in here criticizing right away that this station Because that's what he did. He criticized me. This station is about political banter. It's all Trump network. No, it's not. You know, they do have the left versus the right, and they have all this other stuff on ABC. And right now, yeah, is Dr. Scott, is he talking about? Yeah, he is. But so what? You know, you have your entitled to your opinion. And by the way, you have the right to swipe and move on. That's what I do. I don't want to watch something. I just swipe and move on. That's all. But people get worked up over, yeah, I'm not feeling this program right now. So that's why I'm talking, because as soon as this program is over, I'm going to log off anyway. I'm not going to be on for 4 hours today. No, I'm not feeling it tonight. Blue Sky's catching on lots of Chicago radio station staff moving to Blue. Yeah, whatever. It's not. You know what? The thing is, it is what it is. It's just people. I don't want to be on X no more. I don't want to be on Facebook. I use them all because for search engine purposes. I've been doing web. I'm a webmaster. I've been webmastering for over 30 plus years. So, if you're on every social media, obviously it's good for Google. You get Google ranking better. That's why I do it. It's not because I want to go. I don't engage with anybody in there. Believe me, I don't. When I read those posts, I don't even engage in there. I just post my video link to certain videos, not all videos, but some of them. And that's it. That's all I do there. That's it. I don't engage with anybody or anything like that. So, it's not a loss to me. It's just that people are so obsessed with that stuff still. Like, a newsflash for you people out there that are still, this is the end of year one of Donald Trump presidency. And by the way, there's 3 more years to go. So get over it. That's what I got to say. Back to the program.
I'm going to take a stab at it. Anything that you can share with us on the latest information on the assassination of Charlie Kirk? I mean, it all from a ballistic standpoint doesn't make any sense to me because, I'm a shooter. I regularly did this with LE and I still train. I mean, that's another side of me that maybe people don't know, but I'm not the center of the conversation. What can you tell us? I mean, it seems unbelievable that somebody who's on a roof using a rebored German Mauser, which is originally in an 8mm configuration, to reboard to 30-06, they say. Who's they? The ATFE. From that distance, I mean, God bless, if a headshot like that was done, it would be worse, the description, and horribly, would be worse than the Kennedy assassination. And then you see something strange. Any update? I mean, tell us if you know anything at all.
Well, I mean, this dispute goes to whether Tyler Robinson is the killer or was someone else. And I immediately afterwards, I called a guy who I know is a friend of mine who's he was a former Delta Force operator and Delta Force sniper. Okay. And he actually told me that was an amateur shot, that, most people who had some experience with firearms could make it, and that, it was a sign of his, inexperience that it wasn't a headshot, right?
No.
You hit him in the neck. I mean, if you were going to try and kill somebody,
right.
You shoot him in the heart, you shoot him in the face, and this guy, kind of missed the target, if you will. I believe personally, based on the evidence that's out there that I've seen, that Tyler Robinson is the shooter. And the biggest missed opportunity for me in all of this is that, we have a climate of dehumanization that we can chronicle from Rand Paul's broken ribs by his Democrat neighbor to...
I forgot about that one, right. Go ahead.
Bernie Sanders supporter who almost killed Steve Scalise, House member, as he opened fire on the House Republicans who were practicing for the baseball game. The attempted assassination of Donald Trump, obviously. You've got a climate of hatred out there that is targeting, quote-unquote right-wingers. And, there's the whole trans movement, too, that's kind of the most radical element of the Democrat Party right now, which, their manifestos, whether it's Audrey Hale, who shot up the Covenant School in Nashville, or a week before Charlie Kirk's assassination, you had another trans shooter who opened fire on children sitting in the pews in a mass.
It's just horrible. All these people, right, doing these horrible things. And you're identifying them as being what? Primarily from the, no, I can't say everybody's from the Democratic Party, but I think maybe you could, illustrating this, that it's not necessarily Republicans that are doing this, and maybe there are a few, but majority are on the other side of the fence. That's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's asymmetrical violence, and the left wants to pretend that this is some kind of symmetrical thing. They condemn all acts of violence while they excuse their own. I mean, there are countless examples of this, and you have to lie to yourself to pretend that there's not a left-wing violence problem. And I mean, in my book, I explain how the Anti-Defamation League serves as a propaganda wing of the Democrat Party, for example, to try and claim that right-wing violence is the only, threat we face. But they, of course, exclude all left-wing examples of, left-wing ideological violence. So it's insane. But, Tyler Robinson was in a relationship with a trans individual, that was his roommate. And so to me, it's not surprising the least this leads to it. I mean, Charlie Kirk was painted as, they said his words were violence. And more shocking to me was that, after he was assassinated, look, let me put it this way. Even if you have questions about who the actual shooter was, you should be alarmed by the fact that it was, in my experience, it was even people I went to high school with that were Democrats and leftists who were celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination. It was being celebrated, justified throughout this country by your neighbors that were on the left. And it brought back these, shocking memories for me of being a freshman in high school when the Twin Towers fell in New York City there. And you had, certain Muslims in the Middle East who were celebrating that tragedy. Horrible. And this didn't happen overseas. These were people that I went to high school with that were celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination.
That's right. On my wall in one of my rooms here, I have a big American flag with the names of at least from identification, every victim of the 9/11 tragedies, not only in New York City, but of course, all around the country that day. And never forget, ladies and gentlemen, that's horrific. I keep reading about it. I'm not a conspiracy guy, and I certainly don't want to change topics here, but that is amazing. As we celebrate the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, this is very interesting. Drew Allen joins us, if you're just joining us, ladies and gentlemen, to the top of hour number 2. He's an author. He's a publicist. And his books, the 2 books, unless he's got something else going on, and I'm sure he does, America's Last Stand, his original book, Will You Vote to Save or Destroy America? And then secondly, a very powerful book, I'm sure, The Martyrdom of Charlie Kirk for Christ and Country. So much information here. And if you haven't gotten on the line yet, as far as on the air, please stay there. We will do our very best to get you on air with your questions or comments. If you're still in the queue, the number is for those who want to join us, 1-800-848-9222. It's fascinating, Drew, as we celebrate the 250th anniversary here. So many celebrations that are going to be planned here and around America. Amazing time. And for people that are new, the many new citizens, we don't hear about that. I once gave a talk and was asked by a federal judge, I don't know how they picked me. We were doing other shows in Phoenix area. And they said, we'd like you to come down and talk about America to the newly minted American citizens. And boy, what an honor. I felt like I'm undeserved of this, but they were all there, and you should see that moment. This goes back 15 years ago. They're all very proud to become Americans and doing it by the way that we would want new citizens to come into the country. Drew Allen, this is awesome. We appreciate you. And ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back. Our last break of hour number 2. And when we come back, we'll take your calls like Christine in Manhattan and everybody else who's waiting right here on the Dr. Sky Experience.
All right. So they're going to take a small break. They'll be right back. We got about 15 minutes before. Oh, my son is really active upstairs tonight. Well, he's on vacation now. He's all of next week he doesn't have school. It's a winter recess, they call it. So all of next week he doesn't have school. So he's very happy. He doesn't have school. Yeah, smash the like button. Thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate that. So yeah. Yeah, no school. He doesn't have school till the following week. So of course Monday's President's Day, and then after that, the remainder of the week he doesn't have school, and then he goes back the following Monday. So yeah, he's very happy. he loves. He stays up late. He reminds me so much of myself. Yeah, I know. I don't remember getting a winter recess, but they do that here in Yonkers. And then, of course, the next recess after that is the one for Good Friday and all that stuff. That's in, I believe, in late March. Is it late March into April? All right.
There are people who want to make you a victim, and we need to educate ourselves about them and stand up. And that's what this show does.
The price of liberty is responsible.
Yeah, not yet. I'm not going into the city. There's too much snow all over the place still. You have a lot of snow here that's melting. When the weather gets nice, of course, especially when the weather gets warmer, yeah, we plan to go in the city.
Our very special guest, Drew Allen. And also, let's go to line number 1 right now. Time permits. Let's say good morning to Christine in Manhattan. You've been patient. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Dr. Sky. And boy, I was listening to the comments being made on your great show.
I mean, we're going to go shop
and
tomorrow.
It's clear that they're trying to destroy American society. And the way to destroy society is to destroy the human family. And I was watching the killing fields about the terror in Cambodia. They were teaching people, they had a picture of father, mother, and kids lined up as a human family, and a knife severing the hand of the adults from the kids. You can't have a family. The objective is communism and globalism. If you have you have to have communism to have globalism. Then you have an imperial dictatorship. You lose everything. And when you talk about this poor gentleman that was assassinated the other day, he stands for unity, he stands for religion, for morality. There's so many things going on, like the trans teaching in school. That's not a good example to set for your kids who expect to grow up and get married and have kids of their own.
That's right, Christine. We need to hear more about this. Drew, couldn't find a better caller, right? I mean, she says it right, and what else is there to say other than amen, right?
Well, she's exactly right. I mean, one of the biggest lies from the left is that, this country wasn't founded on Christianity. It absolutely was, and that's not to say that we're a theocracy. The Founding Fathers obviously were against that, but you can go to George Washington's speeches, you can look at the, state constitutions around this country, at the founding of the country, and many of them had requirements to be a Christian to even be elected to office, so obviously Christianity is built into this. And look, you don't have to like, tomato sauce to love pizza or pasta. But you are all the beneficiaries of this Christian, which unites us with, Europe and the West at large, and that's what this battle is about. And unfortunately, the left, I mean, we're basically in a marriage with irreconcilable differences at this point, the way I look at it, because the left does not love this country or respect it at all. What they teach young people is that, this is a horrible country from its birth, and it has to be dismantled and rebuilt, and she hit on the nail on the head in this communist image. And this is why the Democrats talk about separation of church and state, which isn't a real thing. It's not in our Constitution. Now, obviously, we're not a theocracy, but when they talk about separation of church and state, they're referring to a letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote to the Danbury Baptists, which ironically was assuring them that the government wasn't going to come in and didn't have an ability to restrain their ability to worship. It wasn't to prevent Christians from operating as politicians. It was to ensure that, Christians could worship as they please without government interference. And obviously communism has to remove God from the equation and faith altogether because they want absolute allegiance to the state. And that's what we're experiencing today. So the more people can study communism and Marxism, the more they'll understand what's happening in this country today. And I tell people, don't listen to me. Look to these wonderful.
Yeah, how would anybody want that form of government? I mean, you've got to be out of your cotton picking mind, because look at all the people that have died throughout history. I mean, look at China, Mao Zedong. Look at all the millions and others from the Hitler side, from the Stalin side, all these other people and other dictators, which we won't go into. Let me say thank you to Christine in Manhattan. Let's see if we can get another of the many people that want to call in. Let's say good morning on line 2 to John in Long Island. Good morning, John. How are you? Well, John left us, I gather, as we move into the morning, but this is interesting, Drew. Let me find out something. How do people get in touch with you if they have commentary or stuff that they want to add or questions in the short hour that we just had? How do they get in touch with you?
Well, they should go to my Substack, which is where I post everything, which is drewallen.substack.com. They can get in touch with me there, certainly, and I'd be happy to answer questions and continue the conversation from people like Christine and others. I mean, I got to be honest with you. I've done a lot of interviews over the last 5 or so years that I've been involved in this kind of public-facing political sphere, and this WABC show, yours in particular, is by and large the greatest experience I have had, and you have the greatest callers that I have ever experienced in my life.
Well, Drew, thanks for the compliment, but I said the power of the station, 4+ years, promoting many, many talents here on this radio station. I'm honored to be sitting behind this microphone, and I certainly appreciate it. As many people may wonder, hey, here's a guy talking about space and science and the great mysteries, but obviously we will return to those themes as time permits. But hey, just like many, I served in the military for a short time. I did my law enforcement thing, and I do my firearm training. But the most important thing is the background that I do have in the subject matter that you, the audience, tell us that they appreciate. And just a little side note, next week, as we return to some of the most important subjects, what could be more important than this? Nothing more important than American exceptionalism. We'll talk about the aviation subject. And here's an interesting story. Back in the 1960s, there was an event that could have ended, and I don't know if you're aware of this, Drew. This is big time, but some people say trivia, but I think important. A B-52 with 2 hydrogen bombs was flying an East Coast route, and somewhere over North Carolina, the airplane had some mechanical difficulties. The crew bailed, the airplane crashed, and what happened is 2 of these hydrogen bombs actually released from the particular aircraft. One of them apparently had slammed into the ground, and according to reliable sources, was never ever recovered, the core. But one of them actually started its timing mechanism, and by the good graces of God, when it hit the ground, the next level of that, it came within maybe a microsecond of the switch triggering. Can you imagine what that had been along the East Coast, a hydrogen bomb across the United States and others? And we'll talk about this because it's very interesting. These lost nuclear weapons are known as broken arrows, and that's an interesting story. And we'll be talking about that with some very interesting individuals who've done research. And one of our good aviation friends, a gentleman by the name of Bill Yenny, if you look him up, ladies and gentlemen, amazing historian in the story of history and the history of aviation. So, Drew, I didn't want to take away from you. I just wanted to give people a little look-see. But take us to the top of the hour. I mean, what do you see as the most important subject that people need to know about here that maybe lamestream, mainstream, or legacy media is not talking about what's happening in the division of our country? What to you seems to be one of the most important issues that need to be talked about?
Well, I think it comes down to the foundational differences between the kind of left and the right now, which is that, one side wants to tear down this country and the other wants to preserve it. One believes this is a nation worth preserving and saving and continuing, for hundreds of years, and the other wants to fight against that with, every breath in their body. These midterm elections, that first book I wrote, about America's Last Stand, look, that was an inflection point in American history. Everybody fought hard to get Trump in office, and if we lose these midterms, it's all going to be in vain. And so
You're right.
These midterms, Trump is on the ballot. You're going to see, just relentless impeachments if we lose the House of Representatives and certainly the Senate as well. So you've got to get in gear here. And, I was telling you earlier, that I had a conversation with Newt Gingrich. I interviewed him on my podcast, The Drew Allen Show.
Oh, wow.
And one of the things we talked about is since being a parent, it's changed my perspective on politics, too, because I'm a parent 24/7, full time, till I die. I've got to look out for my kids. And one of the things that's happened in this country, which is unfortunate, is that most Americans view their role as citizens as, every 2 years or every 4 years. But as Newt Gingrich reminded me, it's a 365-day a year, 24/7 endeavor. And
exactly.
I'm very optimistic on America. I'm very happy. I just love this country. The outcomes that I can't predict don't really shape how I behave or how I proceed in my life, because I know right from wrong. I believe in moral absolutes, and I love this country, and I love my family, and I love my American citizens, even the Democrats who tell me to kill myself. I love them all. And I want everyone to succeed. I want everyone to have the greatest opportunity. I want this nation to continue in perpetuity as the greatest nation in the history of mankind. And we can do that, but the burden's on us to inform people. And the left just has slogans and lies, and so therefore it's up to us to educate ourselves like Charlie Kirk did and go out like a Christian. The Great Commission from Jesus was go forth and make disciples of all nations. And we've got to take that responsibility seriously and do it every day.
And we are a constitutional republic. That's something, I kind of grate when I watch these different programs or listen, not here, let's say, but other places. And it's amazing. You just hear democracy, democracy, democracy. And it's like, whatever happened to the simple thing of the absolute truth? A constitutional republic, much, much different, even though we could be described, right, as a what? Representative democracy. That's a little bit more accurate than just saying democracy. And that's not a civics lesson right now at this early hour in the morning. But you're right. Celebrating American exceptionalism is something that obviously, preach it from the highest pulpit, get out on the street and talk about it. And everybody out there who hopefully can have a change of mind. But again, you don't hate your enemies, but you want to sit down like Charlie Kirk did and at least be able to debate them. And hopefully that will continue so that we can get more people to believe that American exceptionalism is the answer from all race, colors, and creeds that are here, that come into our country the legal way. What say you? You get the last word.
Well, look, it's indisputable this is the greatest nation in the history of mankind. And, it's amazing that so many people don't want to ask why. It's not happenstance. It's not an accident. It's because of the unique ideals and the ideas that the founding fathers put forth in our Declaration, our Constitution. And, for people in this country to hate it so much that they want to tear it down, it's a non-starter for me. And so we've got a lot of work to do. We've got to educate young people. Barack Obama's out there announcing recently that he's excited about using his presidential library in Chicago to create more social justice warriors. And so this is what we're up against. But, I'm excited about it because, look, we're on the right side of history. And, as Bad Bunny said, love conquers hate. But the reality is that we're the ones who love. We love this country. We love our citizens. We love our children. We want to protect them. And so you need to find conviction in that, and you just stop, accepting the false premises of the left and go out there and just do what you can do in your own communities. There's a lot of ways to save this country. And not everybody's going to be Charlie Kirk, but, that's a great starting point.
Well, Drew Ellman, many thanks to you. We'll have you back, of course, and keep us posted on your latest revelations and new iterations of topics that you're going to produce as far as being a book author. And again, giving us an enlightening hour on the subject of American exceptionalism. We thank all of you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us, all the callers. And next week, of course, returning back to some of the major themes that we talk about, the great mysteries of the universe from the realms of astronomy, space, aviation, and weather, celebrity guests, and, of course, the story of American exceptionalism. And a big shout-out to our helmsmen, Tony and Bill, who make sure that everything's happening as it should at this powerhouse radio station, the Big Blowtorch, Talk Radio 77, WABC. Hope your Valentine's Day was great. Peace and love to everyone. Yes, indeed. And clear skies as we talk to you next week with great information.
All right, here we go. So Dr. Sky Show has ended. And I'm going to sign off now. I'm going to sign off now. And I hope everybody has a great week. And thank you for watching. RT08, thank you for the Valentine's Day. Thank you for that. Yeah, we had a good Valentine's Day. It was nice. We're going to go out tomorrow, actually. Tomorrow we're gonna go. Well, later on today we're gonna go out. So we're gonna go out later on today. And let me see if I miss anybody before I go. So yeah, everybody. Okay, so there you go. So thank you for watching, everybody. I'll see you soon. Have a great day. Have a great week. Take care. Bye-bye.